Hey everyone, welcome to my podcast. My name's Akene. My podcast is dedicated to personal development and positivity. I will use affirmations and in some episodes also life stories to help us all continue to evolve and live our best life. All right, so before we begin this podcast, let me tell you guys about Anchor. It's an awesome app that I personally use to create my podcasts. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast directly from your phone or computer, and Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple, and many more platforms. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum amount of listeners, and it's everything you need in a podcast in one place, all for free. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of my podcast. And today I want to talk to you guys about 5 things that I learned in 2020. I know, it's been a crazy year with lockdowns and the pandemic and the economy and with everything going on, but I do still feel like there's a lot of good to be taken out of this year. Even though we had a lot of bad things happen, there's still a few things that we can take and that we can learn and adapt or apply to our lives moving forward. So one of the first things that I learned, and this was once the lockdowns first started and we weren't able to do a lot of the things that we were so accustomed to doing without giving a second thought to. And so the first thing that I learned was to appreciate and show gratitude for the little things. And little things just like going to the gym and being able to work out, uh, being able to go to a bar with friends or being able to go to restaurants with friends and not having to worry about social distancing and all of that stuff. And even once gyms open back up, even though, most gyms require masks and distancing and reservations and all of these things to be done, it still just made me appreciate being able to go to the gym as a whole. So even though it's tough, having to work out with a mask on and it's not the same that it was before. What I realized is it's still so much better than the gym being closed in general, just not being able to have that place to go and that place that can be your outlet and that place that you can escape from and go home or escape from home with and things like that. And so just it just made me a lot more grateful to be able to have things like that and being able to go to the grocery store and buy things and especially with the whole thing with the toilet paper crisis and all that stuff, just small things or like bottled water and things like that, just being able to go to the store and pick up things like that without having to give a second thought to it. And so the second lesson that I learned was just focusing on what you can control. Because I do feel like with the lockdowns, what I started to do was I started to worry about, oh, when will things go back to normal? When will things be the way that they were before? And what I noticed was it would start to stress me out a lot more because the more that I'd start to think about when things are going back to normal, and I would start to put these timelines in my head of, oh, well, maybe in 6 months, maybe in 12 months, maybe, in 3 months. And I feel like all that did was it would just stress me out more and it'd make me feel even worse if like 3 months went by and we were still exactly where we were, or if things were even worse. So what I had to learn to do was to just focus on what I could control. So even though we were on lockdown and all of that stuff, I just started to try and find different things to do to pass the time. So whether that be doing things like hanging out with my family or FaceTiming with friends, just doing things like that to still communicate with people and to still try and make the most of your time at home. And whether that even meant taking time to start your own business or start your own e-commerce store or something like that, but just taking that time to either learn a new craft or to just do something that you'd always wanted to do. But maybe before, when you were going to work and doing all those things, you just never had the time to dedicate to learning something new like that. And the third thing I learned was just acknowledging your feelings, just understanding that it's okay sometimes to feel stressed out and to feel overwhelmed or to feel lonely. But I do think it's important to acknowledge those feelings and then work on trying to fix them from there. So for me, a lot of times during the pandemic, if I started to miss one of my friends or feel lonely or something like that, I would just reach out to my friends and talk to them, whether it's on the phone or FaceTime or even just texting them sometimes, just sending them a text and checking in on them and making sure that they're doing okay. Because I do feel like, especially with the pandemic, with the lockdowns, trying to suppress those feelings just isn't going to do anyone any good in any circumstance. And so what I noticed was, as soon as I began to acknowledge, okay, I'm feeling like this, so I should do this about it, or I'm feeling this way, so I should text so and so or do this. It made me feel a lot better, and it put me in a position to be able to do something about those things that I was feeling and help myself kind of cope with those feelings a little bit better. And the fourth thing I learned was, and I alluded to this in my last lesson, but just the importance of reaching out to check in on friends and loved ones. And also just even yourself, even if you feel like you need someone to talk to, or just reaching out and just understanding that we're all in this together and we're all going through this at the same time. And it's taken a toll on everyone, whether that's family members, it's taken its toll. So whether you feel like you need someone to talk to, or even if it's just a friend of yours or someone that you were acquainted with that you haven't talked to in a while, just reaching out and checking in on them, it goes a long way, because I feel like there's certain things that not everyone is just open to discuss with people. Not everyone is willing to just mention, oh, I've been feeling like this over the last few months, or I've been feeling like that. And so I feel like reaching out to them, it makes them feel a lot more comfortable coming forward with those feelings. And for the last lesson that I learned, I would just say overall, just the importance of self care. So whether it's every day or a couple times a week or even once a week, I know our schedules can get super busy. And especially for some people with this whole thing, with like working from home and things like that now, I feel like it can get super easy to start to, I guess, just become so trapped in your work and thinking, oh, well, now that I'm home and I don't have an office to go to, I need to focus on my work 100% of the time. And it can become real easy because before you had work and you had home, so you had that separation. And I do feel like it's just super important to make that time for yourself. So whether it's 15 minutes a day or however much time you can afford to put in, but put it into something that you'll enjoy doing, and something that will make you feel more fulfilled, and just something that's a true hobby of yours that doesn't involve work or school or studying or any of that. I've just found that even trying to squeeze in a little bit of time whenever you have the chance goes a long way. So I know something for me is, once we were able to go to the gym, going to the gym would be a really good escape for me. Or after a day of classes, even if it's like an episode of a TV show on Netflix or just a YouTube video from one of your favorite channels or something like that. Just having that small break, or that break in your normal workflow, just goes a long way. And I think it'll help you even push harder. It'll help give your mind that kind of break that it needs. And kind of tied in with this as well is just being more present as a whole. So whether you're taking a break and you're doing something, just understanding that if you're not working, you're not even thinking about work. If you're at the gym, you're thinking about the gym. If you're watching a TV show, you're thinking about that TV show and you're enjoying it. Because what I've noticed is it's more mentally exhausting if you're watching a TV show but you're thinking about all the things you have to do, or you're at the gym but you're still thinking about all the homework you have to get done or all the studying that you need to do. what I've noticed is it's more mentally taxing on your brain because your brain can't really tell the difference between you relaxing and you working if you're constantly thinking about work and all the things that you have to do. So just finding that really good separation. And even if that means, you have a certain space in your house or apartment or whatever that's for work, and everywhere else, like your living room, your bedroom, all of that stuff is for you. So maybe you have a certain part of your desk or something that, if you're facing this direction, you're doing work. But if your computer's on the other side of your desk, you're relaxing and you're watching Netflix. I feel like having that mental separation helps a lot also and goes a really long way. Um, Sorry, you guys. Yeah, I just wanted to make this podcast for you guys and talk to you guys about just some of the major lessons that I learned this year. And, even though it's been a tough year for all of us. I do feel like the silver lining in all of this is that we'll all be a lot more grateful for things once things go back to normal and everything is back to the way that it used to be. Sorry, you guys, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of my podcast and got a lot of value from it. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one.